sweet, fresh meat.
Torture porn. The term was used far and wide when examining the horror world in the mid-2000s. You just couldn't go anywhere on a horror forum without some kind of debate about their merits. Some just saw them as gore exploitation with little substance, and others felt that they provided the exact cathartic release that only violence could manage. But with such polarizing views come very strong opinions on the film that spawned them. Today, we're taking a hacksaw to our ankle as we discover what the fuck happened to Leigh Whannell and James Wan's Saw. It needs to be stated right up front here, but we're going into massive spoiler territory in this video. So if you haven't seen the original Saw, turn back now, because there are some things that you really just want to experience for the first time yourself, and not some guy on YouTube explaining it away. Let's get to it, because the Saw franchise was an absolute behemoth in the Aughties, and inspired a slew of imitators. But it all began with two film graduates from Australia. I want to thank you guys for watching What the F*** Happened to This Horror Movie, and ask that if you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now, like this video, and click on the bell so you can be notified each time a new video goes up. And now, back to the show. James Wan and Leigh Whannell had both graduated from film school, and they were inspired by Darren Aronofsky's Pi to make their own low-budget feature. As is often the case, they saw the horror genre as their bread and butter. They went into crafting the story with the idea that they could keep two characters in just one location. The less locations, the less expenses. But where, oh where would they be? An elevator? No. A rooftop? Nah. What Wan eventually came up with was the concept of two men waking up in a room, chained to a massive pipe with a dead body laying between them both. There would also be a little tape recorder that tells them they need to complete a game or face the consequences. He also knew that while the majority of the time would be spent with these two men, they would also cut to a villain. Eventually it would be revealed that the villain was actually yet another victim, and that the actual bad guy was laying in the room the entire time. Whannell was tasked with coming up with the why.
I want to play a game.
Why are these people forced to compete in these games? And why does this villain do it? The idea of Jigsaw being terminally ill came from Whannell, who was worried that he himself had a brain tumor because he had been getting very bad migraines. While he was in the waiting room, he contemplated life and how he would react to the news of only having a year left to live. A year where you watch others not appreciate their own lives that they think are endless. That would cause a man to go crazy and want to punish those not truly appreciating life, right? Thankfully, that wasn't the case for Leigh himself, but he did now have Jigsaw's motivation. And while James Wan had hoped the script would have a very quick turnaround, Whannell ended up taking 9 months in order to come up with just a first draft. Initially, they wanted to make the movie in Australia, but no studios were interested. Then add to it Whannell's script, which had gone well past the super low budget that they were aiming for, and they knew they needed a bigger financer. At their agent's suggestion, they flew to Los Angeles in order to pitch to producers in person. They also went and filmed a short film based on what is now one of the most famous scenes in the movie, the reverse bear trap. The duo wanted to show that they were more than just screenwriters and were legitimate filmmakers. So Leigh took on the part of the victim and donned the famous reverse bear trap. It plays out much like it does in the completed film, only at a much slower pace. And I mean, obviously that isn't Shawnee Smith. But many elements like the spinning camera, green tint, and even the design of the trap itself carry over into the final product. Wan and Whannell met with producer Greg Hoffman to show him both their short film as well as the script. It didn't take long for Hoffman to be blown away by their talent and bring the script to his partners Mark Berge and Aaron Coules. While the creative duo had an offer from DreamWorks, they were worried that Whannell would be pushed out of directing and that Whannell would be removed from the role of Adam. So when Berge, Coules, and Hoffman offered them full creative control, along with 25% of the profits, the deal was done. Coules, also being a manager, gave the script to one of his clients to see if he was interested in the lead.
What are you doing to them, you bastard?
Cary Elwes was blown away by the originality of the story and agreed to take on the part of Lawrence Gordon. They were also able to attract several other name actors like Danny Glover and Ken Leung. But not everyone was as impressed with the screenplay. Shawnee Smith, despite starring in 1988's The Blob, was just not a fan of horror films and initially refused the role. After being shown the short film, she was won over, feeling she'd be in very talented hands. And according to DVD commentary, the only reason she was even considered was being that Whannell had a huge crush on her and just mentioned her offhand to his casting director. The most important role of the film was arguably that of John Kramer, aka Jigsaw. The big reveal at the end was too important to have just anyone in the role. The actor would need gravitas.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you, not anymore.
And since only their voice would carry the performance for much of the film, he also needed to sound damn good. Having a voice that could chill you to your bone, Tobin Bell was approached to play Jigsaw, which he graciously accepted. Filming began on Saw on September 22, 2003 in Los Angeles. They found a massive production facility on Lacey Street, which served as the home base of the production. Most of the scenes were filmed here, though certain ones like the police station were done on sets built by other productions. All of the bathroom scenes were filmed in chronological order, both for continuity reasons, but also to get the best performances out of Elwes and Whannell. But everything about this production was extremely limited. They only had a budget of $700,000, which is absolutely unbelievable nowadays. There are YouTube videos with higher budgets. Because of this, there are many corners that had to be cut. I mean, James Wan himself was the one that built the little Billy puppet. And as much as he liked the script, during filming, Cary Elwes was constantly tweaking the dialogue for his character. You can imagine how annoying this would be to the creative team that put so much work into the script. So, to get a little lighthearted payback, they wrote an entirely new scene for Cary that made absolutely no sense. His character motivations were completely thrown out the window, and it was an absolute mess of a scene. He was finally clued in when the entire crew started laughing, and he knew he'd been pranked. So clearly, despite the film's subject matter, there was plenty of fun to be had on the set of Saw. Shooting wrapped after just 18 days, an extremely short filming period. There are several moments in the movie where still photographs flash on the screen, as well as various surveillance footage. While this editing style was replicated across future films, it was initially just done out of necessity. They didn't have the footage for those scenes and needed something in order to make sense and connect them properly. Just like they didn't have a few key shots like the detective being shot as well as Amanda sifting through guts for the key. So these were picked up during the editing process, and that's actually Leigh Whannell playing both roles. In the full screen version, you can even see Leigh's face when they're first entering Jigsaw's lair. Low budget filmmaking. Charlie Clouser was brought in to do the music, and he completed the score in just 3 weeks. Various indie songs are used throughout the movie, but it's Clouser's score which really stands out. His time as a keyboardist for bands like 9 Inch Nails and White Zombie really brought a certain edge to the music. James Wan and his editor Kevin Gruder worked 7 days a week in order to get the film ready for a certain prestigious film festival in the mountains. Saw opened at the Sundance Film Festival on January 19, 2004 and was a massive hit. The buzz was large enough that it had been picked up by Lionsgate for wider distribution before the premiere even happened. The film was scheduled for an October release, but needed to make its way past the dreaded MPAA first. After the first submit, they were given an NC-17 rating due to violence. But after trimming a bit of the gore, the film was finally approved for an R rating, which opened the gates for its US release on October 29, 2004. While audiences loved the film, critics were mixed.
A pointless exercise in shock value. James Wan's feature directorial debut is chock full of narrative holes and gratuitous gore. Chooses gore for the sake of gore and cuts its own throat.
Well, I guess you can't win them all. Saw has spawned 8 sequels, with another on the way in the somewhat near future. While many aspects of it have evolved over the years, including an entry starring Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, its roots have remained the same. The quality sure has been up and down, but we'll always have that seminal first film to look back on. Wan and Whannell went on to create both the Insidious and Conjuring series, while Wan has started making big blockbusters like Furious 7 and Aquaman. What Saw has spawned and inspired in the horror world is truly impressive, because with a slam of the door, Jigsaw became the stuff of legend.
Game over.